Cruella de Vil. Cruella de Vil.
I think we have a future in archipelago.
I think it's acapello. Like, yeah, we have a
Acapella.
future in
It's
archipelago,
yeah, that's right. It's two
archipelago
words.
crafting.
Acapella.
Some acapello singing, song and dance performances, people.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yes.
what our future is. We're done with movies. We're moving on to the next best thing.
What if this podcast actually morphed into us just getting on here every week and doing a little dance routine? Like, wow, we've come a long way. What's going on, everybody? Critic and the Common Man here. Up today, I was going to say long-awaited Cruella, but honestly, have we really been that, like, waiting on edge for this thing? I mean, I kind of feel like it was in the back of our heads, and then all of a sudden, before we knew it, Cruella was here, and now we've watched it, and we're good. I mean, what did you think? Were you, like, really hyped up about this one, or did you not really care that much?
I went into the movie not really caring. I literally, two reasons. One, I was going to watch it even if we didn't for the podcast.
Yeah.
Just because it was like a fun date night. And we went to the drive-in.
Nice.
And I always love going to the drive-in because it means shitty food and cheap movies. But
What's not to love?
yeah, yeah, I went into this knowing that it was just going to be like a way to pass a couple hours. And, either way, since I was at the drive-in, even if I hated the movie, like, whatever, I had fun. But I have to say, I was kind of... I didn't expect to like the movie as much as I did.
Dude, you and my
Now-
wife, she was like saying the same thing. She's like, I liked that more than I thought I would. Hold on, before we get too much further into it, let me go ahead and disclose, let me give the
Right.
spoiler warning. So guys, if you have not seen Cruella on Disney Plus, this is a premium access one, so you're going to have to pay $30 if you want to watch it at home.
True.
But go watch it and then come back, and then we'll let you know what we have to think. What we have to say, rather, what we thought of it, and then you can let us know your opinions down in the comments below. So go ahead. I mean, we've now seen this. I'm with you. I
thought it was going to suck.
I don't want to try to sound like Mr. Too Cool. I'm too cool for a Cruella movie. I don't want to try to be that guy because I'm not. But to be honest with you, 101 Dalmatians is a movie I've not seen in probably over 15 years.
Yeah.
And so, the idea of, okay, now there's a Cruella movie, it's like I didn't really care that much, but I still went into this open-minded. Now, I will say, as open-minded as I could. Now, I have not had the best relationship. We have not had the best relationship with these Disney live-action movies. But this one obviously was a little bit different because it wasn't just a remake of an existing movie. It's, it's like a prequel. So it's a little bit different. Sorry, I have a small cat climbing up my leg.
That is a very small cat.
Oh, dude, he is tiny. This is Enzo, everybody. I was outvoted. I wanted to name him Boba Cat with 2 T's, but I was outvoted. I also, he's a good cat. He's kind of starting to get into his wild phase, which is good because he was feral when we got him. Mm-hmm. But now he's just a small chicken, as we call him. So. Anyway, that being said, I don't know. I was trying to go into this open-minded, but to be completely honest with you, dude, I just wasn't all that excited about it. That being said,
agree.
After watching this whole movie, I was a little bit more impressed than I thought I was going to be. I'll say that. Not to try to sound like Mr. Asshole or whatever, but I was a little more impressed than I thought I was going to be. Still not blown away. Still not entirely convinced this movie really even needed to be made. But initial reactions, you've now seen it. You went and saw it at the drive-ins. What do you think of Cruella?
So, I will be the first to admit that 101 Dalmatians is not up on my list of favorite Disney movies. I don't care for it, really. No. Like, I'm not saying it's terrible. I saw it recently just because we were going through all the Disney movies in order. So, like, I watched it recently. But I would be okay if I didn't watch it again. I don't know. It's not my favorite movie.
Right.
Now I understand that it's a classic and all that, so I don't know. They're really picking the weirdest things to draw nostalgia off of.
They really are.
So, with that said, I went into it thinking I'm gonna hate this movie. I thought it was gonna be a musical. I was like, I was mentally preparing myself for the movie to be just absolutely terrible. And I read some reviews, even from some of our own fellow film community posts and stuff, Johnny B fucking hated it. I was just expecting a lot of negative things about it, and going into it after a few minutes, 20 minutes into it, I was like, this isn't bad so far. Like, now, did it feel like a Cruella movie? Not really. It felt like I felt like we were watching an older version of Devil Wears Prada or something. It just... Thank you.
That was literally my first thing that I said, and the thing I couldn't shake throughout the rest of the movie. This is the Devil Wears Prada, people.
It's literally the same, yeah.
Literally the same thing. It's the Devil Wears Prada, except
there's some murderous intent.
Yeah, there's like a little more murderous intent, and there's like kind of dogs involved, but even though there's also really not. Yeah. Like, the Dalmatians are very insignificant in this.
It was just it was a fashion movie that was created by Disney that had some hints at a Disney World there, but not really.
This was the Devil Wears Prada, dude. Absolutely. It was the Devil Wears Dalmatian. Literally, it was like, that was the whole story, and I couldn't shake that while we were watching it. I'm just basically sitting there like, this is such a ripoff.
I liked the Devil Wears Prada, and so
sure.
I think maybe that's why I liked this. Like, okay, and I won't say that. Like is a strong word.
You're never going to Paris.
I just thought it was going to be worse. I did think it was like 45 minutes too long.
Dude, this movie was way too long.
Yeah.
Way too long. I feel like we're actually going to end up rating this fairly similarly. I could be wrong, but this movie was way too long, dude. This was like 2 hours and 10 minutes. This absolutely was an hour and a half movie.
Hour and a half minute. Or
yes,
hour and a half.
For sure.
I would have been like, perfect,
for sure. This
cool,
was an hour and a half movie for sure.
It doesn't help that I had to pee the entire time.
That definitely doesn't help. There's not a whole lot of options when you're in that drive-in. Dude, nope. I got to imagine the drive-in theater is just a crowd full of cars just rocking. Like, people are like, oh, yeah, like, let's go see the drive-in, and then it's just, people are clapping before the movie's even halfway over, you know what I mean? It's like not even, you don't stand a chance at that place. I've actually never been to a drive-in, so that is kind of on the bucket list.
Do they have any in Orlando?
There's not really any around me. That's the thing. Like, we have so many theaters, I don't actually know where the closest drive-in would be.
I can't imagine, like, because drive-ins, you think of drive-ins and you think of, like, summer nights, like, that's right. That's the fun time to go, but summer nights in Orlando is like rain. So like, if it rains, what? Like, how do you watch the movie?
Can you still watch? Yeah, you gotta have your you gotta have your windshield wipers on the whole time.
I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. Why,
maybe. I'm sure there's a drive-in around here somewhere. I'll give it a shot, people. Let you know what I.
It's pretty fun. It's a fun experience.
So those are kind of the obvious qualms that we have. I think a lot of people are gonna notice that it feels like a Devil Wears Prada ripoff.
Did you actually like anything about it?
Yeah, I did. I liked Emma Stone's character in this. I liked her acting a lot. I like her as this character. I thought she was very entertaining. And I thought there was a good twist in this story where the Baroness was her mother.
Yes, I didn't see that coming. No.
I did enjoy things about this movie. I think it dragged on a little bit too long for me, and it got to a point where I was just sort of bored. I was kind of over it before the thing ended, and other than the twist, I don't know, man. I don't know. It was equally predictable and unpredictable. I'm having a hard time like qualifying or quantifying exactly what it was that I kind of had problems with. I think at the root of it, like you were saying, I don't care that much about 101 Dalmatians. I didn't really remember anything from the movie, so I had kind of forgotten that Cruella was like a fashion person. Obviously, she's trying to get the Dalmatians to make a coat. I didn't know that. So my wife had to fill me in on this. I totally forgotten. Well, so Cruella was getting...
Your wife filled me in.
Hey. You leave my wife out of it.
Only I get that information.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Did we really need a Cruella remake? Doesn't matter because we got one, right? So what do we think of it? I enjoyed the movie visually. The costumes and everything were really impressive, kind of the fashion side of this. The sound effect drove me nuts. Or not the sound effect, sorry, the soundtrack. The soundtrack drove me nuts.
Me too. Dude,
it was like they were forcing this British 70s vibe on you so hard with the soundtrack.
But a lot of the songs were from like the 80s. And I was like, what time period are you trying to sell us on right now?
I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be the 70s, I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it was like the late 60s.
It was just like so in your face though, like we're going to do Beatles everything. Yeah. And it's all going to be like covers of the Beatles. And it's like, okay, like we get it.
It is definitely catering to a young audience that is going to be unaware of that sort of stuff. and they're just trying to make a movie like Devil Wears Prada that is Disney-fied, to kind of have the younger audiences kind of it's all energy. The entire movie is just energy, and they're trying to, like, make the villain cool and all this stuff. The whole movie felt kind of tropey and familiar and predictable, but Emma Stone rocked it. Like, she really did, and the costuming was fantastic. The story is good, but only insofar as that it's the Devil Wears Prada.
I mean, dude, so, it really is.
I mean, it's like when it gets down to it, it's about a struggling young woman who wants to be a fashion icon, gets a job with her favorite fashion icon, and then finds out, oh, she's not what I thought, and then
she's super
she tries
mean
to murder
and controlling, and yeah. There was just a little more dire consequences in this one, but Meryl Streep, this woman was not, unfortunately. No. So as far as Disney remakes go, these live action remakes, I feel like there's kind of three tiers. There's the horrible movies that never should have been made. Those would be like Mulan, Dumbo, the Lion King one. Lady and the Tramp. That one. Then there's they weren't bad. Like, they were just kind of okay movies, which I feel like kind of includes like maybe the Beauty and the Beast movie, if you want to go there. And then there's the good ones, which I would say would be like Aladdin. I felt like the new Aladdin was pretty good. So where does I know that's an oversimplification of things,
of course,
but if it were that simple, where do you think Cruella comes in on this list?
I think it's either mid-tier higher up or high-tier lower down.
Yeah, it had just enough to make you question whether it would be like in that really good zone, or if it's kind of just stuck in a forgettable movie thing forever.
It is definitely on the upper 50%.
I'm going to put it in that middle tier, but I agree with what you said. It's going to be in the top of those, I think. Of all those mid-tier movies, it'd be the first one to get called up, if a space opened up, I think.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, visually, I liked it. The costuming
Aladdin over here broke his arm, so he can't swing the bat. We need you.
Come on up, kid. You're in the big leagues, kid. Now's your chance. You got the HD DVD coming out. The 4K DVD is out now. So, other than the costuming, what did you like about this one? I mean, what else was there?
Visually, the movie was pretty decent all the way through. Like, the set design was well done. The time period, for the most part, was like, I felt like it was the time period. Now, the costuming was a little too edgy for that time period, but I could be wrong. I don't know anything about fashion, guys.
Right.
Clearly. So I think the best things that it had going for it were the performances. Also, the two that played Jasper and Horace were great.
They were great.
The gentleman that plays Jasper is from Game of Thrones, if anybody remembers him.
Oh, nice.
So I saw him the entire time. I was like, what are you from?
Like,
and eventually it clicked.
Your face.
But I know your face. So there's the strong performances. The acting was good. The costuming was great. The visuals were pretty good. I think, and I don't know if I'm just too old for this, but like, I hate CG animals in movies.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was almost going to forget about that.
Like the dogs CGI, doing all that shit. I was just like, come on, man.
The CGI on the dogs, which wasn't all the time, if you notice. No. Sometimes it was real animals.
Yeah.
The CGI on the dogs was really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just...
It's cringy.
I couldn't do it, obviously, but that's not my
cringy
job. But, dude, like, when you see CGI like that, it turns it into a kid's movie. Because it's like the only people that are going to believe that that's a real dog is a toddler, is a little kid. Like, that kind of stuff drives me nuts. Not that this movie ever was going to be a 10 out of 10 regardless, but that kind of stuff just, like, grinds my gears.
But it's like, why would you put in that sort of stuff in a movie that's also talking about murder and being an orphan? And, like, that's the biggest thing that I have this issue with this movie, is that who the hell was this movie made for? All of these movies, every single one that's come out, is who was it made for? They got lucky with some of them because Will Smith is an incredible actor and he pulled Aladdin off. And, you know,
it's like this Cruella, or this movie. It's going to be for the original 101 Dalmatians fans, but then they make it for like little kids when they do stuff like the animals and just kind of the overall goofy nature of everything.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, there's themes of murder, and you're seeing people falling off a cliff and whatnot. I mean, and that's kind of adult. So who is this freaking thing made for? I have no idea. And you're right. They do struggle with that on a lot of their movies that they've come out with more recently. Speaking of the dogs, I understand this is based on 101 Dalmatians. So there was no way we were going to do this without some sort of Dalmatian thing. But it almost felt like it was so far removed from 101 Dalmatians that they shouldn't even have had the dogs in it at all.
Yeah.
Like, it almost seemed like the dogs were just kind of stupid. Like, it brought the movie down to even have these little goofy dogs running around.
It felt like they were trying too hard to connect it to 101 Dalmatians without doing it. And it's like this is how she got interested in Dalmatians.
Right, but other than her name being Cruella, it felt like the rest of the movie had almost nothing to do with 101 Dalmatians. And I know they're kind of trying to make it like it's not supposed to tie in exactly like, oh, she actually likes Dalmatians, Cruella. And it's like, okay, this is a woman who was trying to kill puppies and use their skin to make a coat. And now we're trying to like glorify that character through this and make her, almost like a hero. Like you're rooting for her and stuff. And I was thinking they were going to really make her turn at the end like Joker. Like she was going to have a really harsh, dramatic turn and kind of become the Cruella that we know. But, like, it never really happened, did it? I mean, I know she became Cruella, but, like, she wasn't trying to, like, skin Dalmatians and make a coat out of their skin.
Yeah, and her character was kind of bouncing around as far as, like, do we like her or do we not?
Yeah, that was frustrating.
Yeah, like, she turned kind of into an asshole, like, halfway through the movie.
Wasn't expecting this whole movie to be about fashion. I was expecting it to be much more about, like, a woman who... Something happens with dogs. I was expecting there to be more dog inferences in this. The whole thing was, like, a fashion movie, which just, was actually kind of the best part of it, like because it just felt like The Devil Wears Prada, and that's a good movie. The rest of it I just felt like was stiff. I don't know. Had a hard time keeping my attention for the whole thing. Got to be totally honest. I had a hard time really focusing on this, especially towards the end. Like it got to the point where it's kind of like, okay, we get it. Then there was the big twist. She's the Baroness's daughter. Okay. But once that big twist was over, then it was really like, okay, now we really get it.
Like time the for fire and all of that should have been the end of the movie. And then there was like a whole like 30, 45 minutes after that. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
So here's what's blown me away about this. And honestly, this surprises me. The critic score on this is exactly what I thought it was going to be. And I think it's pretty fair. The audience score on this...
Much higher.
It just makes me wonder. So where do you think the critics come in on this from Rotten Tomatoes? And then where do you think the audience comes in on this?
I think critics... are coming in at like a 40, maybe a little higher, a little lower. Audience, I'm gonna assume is like at like a 70 or an 80.
Dude, it's gonna blow you away. So the critics actually came in at a 74, which is pretty high. That's pretty high. I mean, is that higher than I'm probably gonna rate it? Stick around and find out. Dude, the audience score on this. Nice hook. Yeah. Gotta dangle the carrot. The audience score on this, dude, 97%.
That's
97%. Now, listen, people.
It's new.
It's early. It's early. A lot of the people that have gone out and bought this from the audience side are people who wanted to see it. They were fans of, Disney, fans of 101 Dalmatians. They were excited about this movie. Once it comes August and this thing is available to anyone for free on Disney Plus, are we going to see that score stay at a 97? I doubt it. I doubt it. That's probably going to turn into like a 70 something. But these just seem astronomically high to me, man. I mean, where do you come in comparison to a 74 and a 97?
I'm going to give the movie... I'm going to give it a little bit of points for some originality, but I'm also docking points for having the movie be too much like Devil Wears Prada. Yeah. I'm going to come in at 5.5. It was decent. If you're into fashion and you're into Disney, this movie's probably going to rock your shit. But other than that, I can't think of anything that sets the movie apart. Right? Like, it's not even a musical, so there's no music that stands out. It's just a movie about Cruella, kind of.
Right.
That just happens to do a good job at making you like the villain more than the villain of the movie. Right? Because, like... Yeah. There's Cruella, who's clearly going to grow up to be a villain one day. And then there's this asshole woman that made her into that. And we get it. And so we want to see her succeed. And then she kind of descends into madness throughout the movie and then kind of doesn't. So anyways, it's a weird plot line. I'm going to give it a 5.5. And I think that's me being nice. I was going to come in higher, but thinking about it, I don't think so.
I think that's a perfect score. I am going to match you on that. I'm going to come in at a 5.5. I think there were some good things about this movie. I think I will not give it any points for originality because this literally was The Devil Wears Prada. Mm-hmm. But The Devil Wears Prada is a great movie. And this, you follow in the footsteps of a great movie, you're bound to at least make a decent movie, hopefully. And I think they did that. I think this was more entertaining than... that one maybe is an exception to the rule. Like the third Jurassic Park, it just skips. Maybe it skips a generation because I'm pretty sure there was a sequel to 101 Dalmatians. So maybe it's just every other kind of thing. Yeah, wasn't there like 102 Dalmatians or something like that?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure it went straight to VHS. It was one of those. Nope. I'm gonna also come in at a 5.5. I think that's a good score to give this thing. Visually, it was great. Soundtrack was awful. Story was good, but it was not original at all. The acting was fantastic. The casting was fantastic. Everybody fit their roles extremely well. Yeah. So there's a lot to like about this one. There's a lot to dislike. The movie was also too long. So I, like you, Mr. Critic, I'm going to come in at a 5.5. I'm good for that. I'll copy. I'll take your lead on this one. So that's it, guys. Let us know in the comments down below. What did you think of Cruella on Disney Plus? The other question that we always have to ask with these, was this worth $30 if you paid $30 for it at home? Personally, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say this one was not worth the $30 mark. This was a $10 movie, I think, and I would have been happy at that. $30 was steep.
It's like a step above Hallmark.
Step above Hallmark for sure. This felt like a Disney live-action movie, unfortunately. Not worth the $30. People, let us know if you thought it was. What did you think it was worth? Some people are going to regret paying anything at all. I think this was qualified to at least cost $10. I would have paid $10 to watch this movie and been happy with it. $30 was steep. I want my money back. So that's it. Chris, do you have anything else before we jump into our current event for today for Cruella?
No. Wolf, which is Dalmatian clearly Dalmatian. I mean, I don't know how you could think it was anything.
Yeah, I got the dialect. Yeah. I got the specific dialect.
It's a dialect. It's Dalmatian for I'm ready.
Okay, here we go then. Woof, woof, indeed. So, speaking of sequels, let's go past 102 Dalmatians. We are on number 5, people, and I am talking about Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones 5 will begin filming next week. They've released some preliminary images of some set things, and it looks pretty interesting. Have you seen all of the Indiana Jones movies, Chris?
I have.
I have too, and I'm trying to remember with Shia LaBeouf what all happened. I know it was like the alien skull and things like that. It was a little bit wild. How do you feel about them making another one? Of course, Harrison Ford is going to be in this still. I don't know that Shia LaBeouf is going to be in this. I'm not sure if that's been announced. Seems to me like maybe the Indiana Jones franchise has seen its heyday and probably needs to be laid to rest. But what are your opinions on this?
I believe that it needs to stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to do like young Indiana Jones and hire somebody completely new, but at that point you're just doing Uncharted.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think there might be a resurgence of this like action adventure kind of movie type, especially since we're getting like Tomb Raider and Uncharted and all that stuff. I think that might be like another thing and Jungle Cruise and Jumanji.
Yep.
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't. Like, I'm gonna see it. I'm going to, but I don't have high hopes.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that Indiana Jones is still kind of riding off of the momentum that it got from the first 2 or 3 movies. They were so groundbreakingly good. They were so good, specifically the first one. But it's sad. It's almost sad to me when I see news like this. When I see Indiana Jones 5, when I see Fast and Furious 11, when I see, whatever it is that they're coming out with, Star Wars, whatever. It's sad to me that there really seems to be no new content. Like, I don't think movies have been around long enough for for the well to already be dried up. That's sad. That's sad to me. What are people going to be watching in 100 years? What are movies going to look like in 100 years? There are absolutely still going to be movies around in 100 years, people. It's not that long in universal time frame. 100 years is going to go by pretty quick. We'll be gone, and then our kids' will be watching movies.
We commercialized filmmaking by having Hollywood. That's the problem, is that people aren't thinking about the art form of it. They're thinking about how much money can we make out of it. And it isn't until we get a resurgence of like the like-minded thinkers that we got during the 70s, like, and they're called the auteurs. These are filmmakers that went above and beyond and learned the craft and then broke all the rules and made groundbreaking stuff, like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and Quentin Tarantino. These are all people that broke the mold, you know, if that's a thing that you say in this. When in Rome.
When in Rome, am I right?
And I believe that we're going to get that again, because we're in the same sort of thing that we were 50, 60 years ago, where there's kind of a decline in originality and movies are getting kind of stale. At some point, the filmmakers of today, the ones that are probably in school right now, are going to grow up and decide to make movies that are different. And as technology continues to lend itself to making movies easier to make, I think we're going to see some amazing movies 15, maybe 20 years from now.
But do you think it's going to be, and we've talked about this before, people, and shout out to Chris for always having some good historical references, the auteurs. We've talked about that before too. Mm-hmm. But is it on the filmmakers or is it on the writers? And that's what scares me a little bit, is like all these big grand stories, the Lord of the Rings, the Jurassic Parks, the Star Treks, the Harry Potters, the Indiana Jones, you know, these were stories that existed and then were taken up and put into film, right? I mean, maybe not Star Wars. Star Wars wasn't a book before it was a movie, right? It was just George Lucas.
George Lucas's baby, yeah.
Okay, so I'm optimistic about that.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, are you know, the biggest, best stories kind of being taken up already, and who's going to come out and write a new story, I suppose?
Filmmaking to the common person looks like a one-person sort of thing, right? Like, it's the director's movie. But filmmaking is absolutely a team thing. You cannot make a movie on your own and have it break. Like, it's very difficult. You have to be a genius in order to do that sort of thing. And the amount of scripts that get through, like, there are people whose only job Monday through Friday 8 to 6 is to read scripts. The amount of scripts that get put through, it's in the hundreds of thousands that people are creating. And I think that there's no lack of originality. The ideas are there. I think there's plenty of writers out there that don't understand how to get past the blocks that these companies have set up, because if your formatting is wrong, if you have grammatical errors, things like that, they immediately toss it out because they think you're an amateur. So they could have just tossed out the best thing they have ever read, but page 1 had an error on it, so they tossed it out. I think it's a lack of education in how to pitch your ideas properly, which is something that I think Netflix is doing well, in that they're actively looking for content creators, writers, and stuff that can make the next movie for them. You know, like, they're actively constantly looking out for that. Amazon as well, I think, but Netflix on like a unfathomable scale. They're just constantly looking. I see ads all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it is, but like, it is on the writers, because the idea has to be there. The idea has to be unique. But with the proper director, I think that a director's vision kind of supersedes that, because if you think about it, when George Lucas was pitching Star Wars, he said it's a space opera. And if you didn't have a director like George Lucas behind that, what the hell would that have turned into? You know,
what would Star Wars? Could you imagine a world where Star Wars just became nothing, basically, like a world where Star Wars was awful and like nobody even thought about it? I mean, dude, we have Star Wars stuff all around us. It's like one of the biggest franchises ever.
Literally,
and,
right above me.
Everywhere. I mean, literally a culture-changing movie.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. You always make me optimistic when we talk about these things, because you're very optimistic about it, and you obviously know the industry much more than I do. So if you're optimistic, then I'm optimistic. It's just a little bit sad to me when I see things like Cruella and I see things like Indiana Jones 5 or whatever. It's just, I think those movies have had their time. And I think if you're going to redo those stories, like you said, take themes from that story and make it something different.
Yeah.
Make it something different. Or just find something similar, like an Uncharted, like a Tomb Raider, and try to invest some more, interest in that, and try to create a bigger franchise out of that. But we'll see. I mean, like you said, I'm going to watch it. And the Indiana Jones movies are always action-packed. It's always a great adventure, and they're usually really exciting and entertaining. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested in it. I hope it's good. I have high hopes for this thing. But that's it. All right, Chris, you got anything else for Cruella or a current event for today, Indiana Jones 5?
No.
Then we are out of here, dude. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our review of Cruella. If you guys liked it, leave a thumbs up, thumbs down, fair is fair. Please leave a comment down below. Let us know what you thought. Did you guys like Cruella, or was it absolutely a cash grab, or are you somewhere in the middle? Leave a comment. We will read them.
Also,
we will respond.
I know that you're, as the viewer, very upset that I didn't have a fun fact ready. Well, now you know a good thing when it's gone.
You don't know what you got till it's gone, people. You don't know what you got till it's gone. Chris, please, give us something. All right, everybody, we're out of here. Cruella, Indiana Jones 5. See you next time. Peace.